Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Hummingbird and Highland Cow, and I'm sipping on some mango tea. And if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, chrome yellow, burnt sienna, which I like to call rust, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, Mars black, and cobalt blue. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like to, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a white piece of chalk that I'm going to be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 5 round synthetic brush, and I have a number 1 round synthetic brush. And I will refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course you can switch those up as well if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a few additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link where you could purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using for this painting, which would be the same type and size of the canvas, the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting a base coat onto the canvas. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint, but I'm going to use my medium brush to mix a custom color. So I want my little animals to appear as if they're outside, so I'm going to be using a really nice natural earth type of a tone for my for the background or the base coat for my canvas, so I can build everything off of that and it looks really nice and natural. So I'm going for a nice forest type of green. This is my custom color here. How I got to that was I used yellow, black, brown, and a touch of white. So the combination is mostly yellow and then a little bit of black, a little bit of brown, and just a touch of white. So the white is going to help with the opacity so it's not so see-through. And the black, yellow, and brown are, my paint is sliding off my palette here at this angle. These colors are going to make a really nice earthy type of forest green. You might want yours lighter or darker wherever your comfort zone is. You might have already a custom green that looks similar to this that you'd like to use. Whatever works is perfectly fine. So once I've got the color that I desire, I'm going to take my large bristle brush and just color the entire canvas with this custom green. This green has a ton of yellow in it. So as I'm painting it, I'm going to have probably some streakiness to it where you're going to be able to see kind of these light spots and dark spots. I'm okay with that because we are going to be doing a second coat on this canvas, which is going to take care of all of that. So as I go through this initial process of just getting this coat on here, I'm not terribly concerned about my brush stroke. I'm not terribly concerned about having it fully painted with a solid coat. So if I do have light spots and dark spots or streakiness to it, at this point I'm okay with that on this particular painting because we are going to be doing a second coat, which is going to take care of that. The second coat is going to be with a different process and with different colors, but it will take care of all of this streakiness. So once I've got this done, or once I've got it pretty well covered, and I've covered all of the areas, even if it's with a thin coat of paint, what I'm going to do is I take my brush and I just go back and forth left to right. So this will level out any heavy, thick spots, and will also help to get rid of what I call cut marks, which is these marks made when you stop your paintbrush. So this will help to eliminate those and give us a smoother coat going into the next step. So once you've got this done, we are going to be using the same paintbrush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our background. I'm going to use my large bristle brush to paint. I do recommend before you start this step that you make sure that your canvas is dry. So this is that time where you get to take an extra long break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry, or you can do as I did and just whip out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using black, my custom green, and white in order to create a out of focus background. I am not terribly concerned about this big area in through here having a lot of detail in it, because this is where my cute cow is going to be going, but I do want to have a little bit of dimension and atmospheric out of focus type of look to this top portion of the canvas. So I'm going to have it darker around the edges, so I'm going to use a little bit of my background green plus black around the edges, and then as I work my way towards the middle, I'll be using my green plus a tiny bit of white. I'll be using a circular brush stroke, which is going to give me a nice out of focus appearance. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of black and my custom green on my brush at the same time, so about equal parts of both. I'm going to start up in my corners and just kind of give myself this dark type of appearance up in the corners. So again, green plus a tiny bit of black. The black can really easily take over, so you want to kind of proceed with caution when it comes to the black paint. I do want to get some good dimension in here, but I know it can very easily go all the way black on me, and then it makes it a little bit more difficult to kind of transition or get that black out of there. So I'm going to do the same thing down in the bottom left and right corners. Maybe not as large of an area because I've got more cow down here, but if I want to see a little bit of that difference. And then once I've got those corners kind of attended, maybe a little bit more in these bottom left and right. Once I've got the corners attended to, now I'm just going to kind of work my way in towards the middle. So I'm going to pick up more of my custom green. I didn't wash my brush because I want this to blend in with the dark corners that we just created. So I don't wash my brush, and whatever remnants of that black is still on my brush will just allow me to get it to merge with those other areas. And this is the time where you clean up any unpainted areas, like those edges that seem to elude me quite frequently. And then once I've got this on here, again, this part down below, I'm not really concerned about having tons of detail in it. So I'm going to use a lot of my green down here just to make sure that I have a second coat and it's not too streaky. And that way, if there are little peekaboo spots on the edges or the sides of my cow, this will ensure that I have taken care of them and that there's no, again, unpainted areas. But as I get up towards this area, this is where I'm going to start to add more lightness to it. So this is about as high as I need to go with just that green. Now I'm going to pick up a teeny tiny bit, that was a little bit too much, teeny tiny bit of white paint on my dirty brush, and this is going to help me create these out of focus type of light spots throughout my scenery. So you can have a ton of these, you can have a few of them, whatever is visually appealing to you. So I picked up a little bit of white. I'm doing these circular type of formations or shapes throughout here. Now I'm just going to alternate between my background green and white. So I just picked up more of my background green, and this is going to give me a little bit darker of hues in some areas. You can, of course, you could use a little bit of black as well if you wanted to get some spots that were even darker with a little bit more drama in here. But the main goal is to make sure that you've got a second coat on the entire background, so that way it will ensure that it is nice and completely painted. I know that sometimes when we're using these dark colors on a light surface, which was the white of our canvas, it makes it difficult to get a nice fully rendered appearance to it, because it tends to be pretty streaky because you can see that background through it. So I just like to make sure that I put enough layers on here that will help to ensure that I have painted the whole thing. And you can make some of these small or large, whatever works for you. I'm just trying not to make it look too polka dotty, so you can overlap some of these circles if you want to. And then once you've got this done, let it dry. See if there's any additional marks that you want to make or more dimension that you want to impart on it. And then we're going to be using our piece of chalk for the next step. So you can put this large brush away, take out any drawing utensil that's comfortable to you, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be drawing an outline for our cow and our bird. I'm going to be using my chalk. You could certainly use any drawing utensil that you'd like. I also, of course, recommend that your canvas is dry before you start drawing on it, because it's easier that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through a series of markers. We'll connect those markers in order to make some really basic shapes that we'll be able to utilize during the coloring in process of painting. So we're not going through for any fine-tuned detail, just a nice simple shape that we'll be able to paint with. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw the outline for my cow, because it's taking up the majority of my canvas. I'm going to find myself the center of my canvas, left to right, top to bottom. So for me, that's somewhere in this vicinity. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up from that about an inch, give myself a marker. Then I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom of my canvas, the center of the bottom of my canvas, and I'm going to come over to the left of that a little bit less than halfway. So if this is about halfway between the center of my canvas and the end, I'm going to go to the right of that about an inch, so somewhere in this vicinity. And then on the right hand side of my canvas, I'm going to go about halfway from here to here, so somewhere about here, and then I'm going to go to the right of that about an inch, so somewhere in through here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just have my cow kind of, his head's tipped a little bit, so I've got the bottom part over to the right just a little bit. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect here to here and here to here using a big wide kind of oval type of a shape. So I'm going to take it from here, just bring it down like this. So when I curve it out here, I want this to be a little bit further out than here. So I'm going to curve it out maybe about an extra inch to the left and then bring it back down in through here. And then over on here, I'm going to bring this over like this. And then this one doesn't have to be any further than this marker, if, you know, maybe a little bit, but not much. This is going to allow you to tip it. And of course, it doesn't have to be perfect because we're doing lots of fur and stuff on top of that. So that's where I'm starting with my shape, my initial shape. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of ears on. So I'm going to come almost halfway between here and here. So this is about the halfway mark. I'm a little higher than that, maybe about an inch. And then I'm just going to give myself this curved line like this, and then just kind of give myself this really ruffled bottom edge, just so I know that's going to be very furry and I don't want to have clean lines to it. And then on this side, so if my head is tipped a little bit, this top to the ear is going to be a little bit higher than this one. So you could kind of just go straight across like this and then up maybe about an inch, inch and a half. Give yourself a curved line, something like that, and then bring it down to about, again, a similar distance. So whatever you did over here, you do over here. and then give yourself just some really raggedy kind of lines going in through there. Now I'm going to put the horns on. Again, my head is tipped a little bit, so I'm going to do this one first because it'll be a little bit easier. I'm going to come up from here maybe about 1.5 inches, give myself a marker. Then I'm going to find myself about, I would say maybe about the height of the top of my cow's head, coming over to the left, give myself another marker. I'm going to connect these two with a curved line like this. Then I'm going to come down, I would say about halfway between here and the edge of my canvas to here on the ear, and then come down here a little bit like this, and then just connect these two with a slightly curved line. On the right hand side, I'm going to come again up from my ear a similar distance to this one, so maybe about 1.5 inches. Give myself that marker in through there. Then I'm coming way up to the top right hand corner of my canvas, and I'm going to come down about 2.5 inches like this. I'm going to connect these two, but it's going to be a kind of curved S type of a line. So like this, then bring it down here and back over to here. Then again, I'm going to come about halfway between here and the end of my ear, so maybe somewhere in this vicinity. And this is going to connect up to here, but I'm going to come down from here maybe about 1/4 to 1/2 inch like that, and give it a similar S type of a shape. So down like this and like that. That's the, oh wait, I need a big nose too. I was like, that's all I'm going to do, but no, it's not. I want a nose too. I'm going to come down from here maybe about another 1.5 inches, and then I'm going to come down from here almost about halfway between here and the bottom of my canvas, so somewhere in this vicinity. This is going to be a big, wide, square oval type of a shape that's going to be tipped a little bit. That's just 2 markers to help us start. I'm going to go to the right of that about maybe 1.5 inches, and up about 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to come to the left about halfway between here and my head. So somewhere about here, and come down about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, something like this. This is going to be the top of the nose. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to kind of connect these, not kind of, really connect those like that. And then this is as wide as it's going to be. I'm going to come to the left and right of this. From the left, I'm going to come just shy of here, so a little bit shy and down, so somewhere in through here. And over here, I'm going to go to the right of that one, and maybe about the same height, something like this. I'm going to connect these with a bottom side oval, or bottom side curve, so something like this. And then I'm going to round all of my corners. So round my corner, round my corner, round and round. And now that's all I'm going to do for my outline. So oh, and we need to do our bird too. I'm so excited to paint. I just want my outline to be done. I'm going to do my bird. It's going to be up in this area. So that's why I tipped the head, so we could look, so the cow could look at the bird. I can start all birds, most all birds, with a circle and an egg for 2 basic shapes to start. The egg represents the body. The pointy part of the egg goes towards the tail, and the circle represents the head. So I'm going to start with an egg type of a shape. The tail is coming down here. The main part of the body is here. My egg is going to be about 2 inches long. So I'm going to start, the big part of it is up here, and then the tip of it is going to be right about here. So this is in relationship to my cow. If this was where the right eye is going to go, it's kind of directly up from that. And it's, you know, maybe almost halfway between my cow and the top of my canvas, so somewhere in through here. So I take this and I'm going to make myself an egg type of a shape. It's kind of more like a teardrop, a little bit pointy at the tip, something like that. Then I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch circle right in through here. So just a little circle right in through there. I'm going to connect the circle to the egg. This is going to be just a diagonal line like that, and then a diagonal line like this. I'm going to put a beak on. The hummingbirds have long, narrow beaks, so I'm going to put a little tiny triangle type of a shape coming out like that, and then I'm going to point it out to a little beak. So you don't have to make it very wide, just a little thin. I'm going to put a tail, so about halfway down this egg, I'm going to just bring this out to, I would say about here, and then I'm going to give myself a little ruffled edge meeting there. We'll put some little feet on in through there, and then I need a hummingbird set of wings. So I'm going to come down from this little triangle right about to in through here. The point of this wing that is on our side is going to be about almost as far out as the tip of my egg, and then way up here is where I've got the tip of it. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to connect it with a little bit of a curved line like that, and then I'm going to do these little scalloped edges to it, coming down into my hummingbird's body, right into that egg a little bit, and I'm even bringing it down a little bit further. So this way this wing ends up being on our side of the body, and then I can make the other wing on the other side of the body. So I'm going to put the tip up just a little bit further up in through there, and then I'm going to connect it right to this little meeting point in through here with a curved little line, something like that. And then I've got a little tiny spot up here that I can do a couple little scallops. So I'm going to take my small brush with a little bit of water on it because I want to erase a couple of these guidelines on the bird. So I have a tiny bit of water on my brush. I'm going to erase this interior line right here. I'm going to erase this little guideline in through here. I just want you to see the full shape of the bird. So I'm erasing some of these guidelines so we don't get confused during the painting process. I'm going to erase this one in this wing right in through here as well. And that's all I'm going to erase. We're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your drawing utensil away, make any little modifications you need to, and get your medium brush out and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to be painting the base coat for our bird, our horns, and our nose. I'm using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are white, burnt sienna, black, and brown. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be painting the bird with a base coat of white. Then I'll do my horns with gray, and we're going to do the nose with a skin type of a color. So I've got my medium brush. I'm going to just do my bird first with white paint. I am going to give myself or leave myself a little tiny evidence of my chalk mark around this front wing, so I don't lose my way during the painting process. And you can, if you don't need to do that, you don't need to do that, but for me it just makes my painting process a little bit easier. I am using white as a base coat because I really want some vibrant colors on this bird, and with that dark background that we have, it would make it a little difficult to get vibrant colors without having to do 100 layers. So I am just opting for a bright white background, which is going to make my painting process way easier. So as I get to the beak, just so I don't make the beak too big, you can put a tiny bit of water on your brush or thin out your paint, or if this brush begins to be too big for you, you could certainly switch to the smaller brush. I don't necessarily need a full, coat on my beak because it definitely has some darker colors to it. When I go to paint it, it's going to have some darker colors to it, so I don't need that one to be super duper white, but that'll be your judgment call. And then when I go to do these little scalloped edges, I just kind of push my brush a little bit to get that little rounded edge, and then just bringing this all the way down my chalk in through here. And again, I'm going to leave a little tiny sliver between the two wings so I don't lose my way. And then again on this side, I'll just hit my little scallops first so I can take care of those. And then I know for me, I just sometimes just keep painting fast and I lose my way if I don't concentrate on one specific task at a time. And then again, just a little bit of white. I'm going to bring this kind of in a directional brush stroke back here in case my paint doesn't cover all the way. This will start the process of those little feathers for me. So this is the only one that I think I might have done a directional brush stroke on the other wing as well, but definitely evident on this one here. And then I am going to wash and dry my brush to, actually I don't need to wash and dry my brush because I have white on my brush. I'm going to make a custom color for my nose and my horns. So this is the custom color for my nose. How I got to that is burnt sienna and white. I'm just going for a real light kind of skin tone for my nose. So burnt sienna and white will get me in that vicinity. And then while I'm mixing paint, I will also mix my custom gray that I'm going to be using for my horns, which is right here. How I got to that is mostly black and white, and I also used a little bit of brown just to make it a little more earthy of a tone. Black and white sometimes simply mixed together sometimes will make a really cool gray, so if you want it a little bit warmer you can add a touch of brown to it. So those are my colors. I'm going to start with my horns since that's the color I have on my brush, and I'm not doing anything fancy here, just giving myself a base coat that I will be able to work off of. When I get to the ears, I'm just going right up to my chalk mark. My fur for my ears will be covering that portion of the horn. So I know that as I go through this process, there's going to be certain areas of the horns that are going to be hidden. So I don't necessarily need to make them perfect, but I definitely want them to go right up to where that hair or fur is going to be. So I'm just bringing it right into that area. I'm going to do the same thing over on the right hand horn. So just covering my chalk mark. And if you don't cover your whole chalk mark, it's okay. Sometimes I actually leave part of it in order to prevent myself from making it too big during the painting process, because if I lose my guidelines, I have a tendency to make things bigger. So if you do the same thing, just leave them until you really don't leave a little little evidence of that guideline until you really don't need it anymore. That's, you know, the beautiful part about using a drawing utensil like chalk is it's very easy to erase or to, you know, kind of leave hanging around for a while to help you through your painting process. And then I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to paint my nose. When I paint my nose, I know that I want the exterior skin part where it's going to meet the fur. I want that to kind of look pretty natural, and I don't want it to be a super clean edge. So as I'm getting to the edges of the nose, I'm going to kind of let myself run out of paint in a second here, and I'm going to have my paint thinner around those edges. And I'll show you what I mean when I get there. So I've got this, and we're going to put a little lip mouth area in a little bit as well, but I'm going to save that for later. So I've got the center area pretty well covered. And if you still have a lot of paint on your brush, you can just kind of wipe it off on your paper towel or your whatever. And then I'm going to just softly kind of soften these edges of the nose. So this way, as I'm going through my painting process, I don't have these really super firm edges of this particular object that I'm trying to blend into the fur or anything like that. This, again, is just one of those tricks that helps me through my process so I don't have too much difficulty doing the effects that I want. And then we're going to be using our large brush for the next step. And don't worry if this isn't perfectly covered. We've got lots to go on it. This is just the first coat. So you can put this medium brush away, take out your large brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the base coat for the fur. I'm using my large bristle brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, and burnt sienna. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put strategic dark fur kind of around where the mouth is going to go, a little bit in where the eye sockets would go, some dark fur down at the bottom of the ears, and then we'll build our way towards a little bit of lighter fur. We're going to have dark fur like underneath that fun blonde type of fun hair that these cows have. So that's where my burnt sienna is going to act as the dark colors for those areas, and then my brown and my black are going to act as the dark color for like by the mouth and maybe as it's coming down towards the neck. So I'm going to start with brown and just a teeny touch of black on my brush. So it's mostly brown and I just have a teeny tiny touch of black. This is going to look much different when it's wet versus when it's dry. So the brown will get deeper and darker as it dries. So I know that. So when I'm doing this, I know I don't need a lot of that black on my brush. It's just going to help my process to start. So I'm going to start right in this mouth, and I'm just going to kind of bring my little dark area in through here, and then I'm going to pull this down towards the left and maybe just a little bit more black so you guys can see what I'm talking about. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing over here on the right hand side. So just bringing this darker tone down in through here, and you can even blend it in to that pinkish area a little bit, that skin a little bit. I'm going to continue to pick up black plus a touch of brown in order to get a little bit of darker fur coming along the edge of the nose in through here, and then where that eye is, or where the eye socket would be. I think I want just a tiny bit more black so you guys can see what's happening in through here. There we go. And then I'm going to do the same thing over on the right hand side. So when I do fur, my biggest thing is I want to put my brush or my brush strokes in the direction that that fur like falls or is growing out of the animal's body. So to me, this fur on the chin is going to kind of come down like this, and then the fur on the side of the face is going to come out in this direction. So, and it's long fur for this particular type of animal, so I'm using pretty long brush strokes. I keep picking up a little bit of black and brown as I'm doing this, just so I can get these darker areas in here without going too black. That's also my key here, is I'm trying not to go too black, because I do in areas like where I'm going to be putting the eye, I don't want it to be all the way black, because my eye is going to have some black stuff on top of it as well. So I'm going to do this also over on the bottom of the ears. So again, just black plus brown, bringing some of these darker pieces of fur down in through here. Again, I don't need to do a whole heck of a lot. I am covering up a lot of my chalk mark, but if I don't cover all of it, I'm okay with that. Let's see, where else do I want dark? I think I'm going to put a little bit where the hair is going to part at the top, or fur. So somewhere over here, think of it like somebody has brushed their hair from one side to the other. So we're going to put just a little bit of this dark color up in through here. So again, just black and brown is on my brush. This doesn't have to be perfect, just something maybe up by the corner of this nose in through there. And I think that's all. Maybe a little bit down at the bottom of the chin in through here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, without washing my brush, I'm going to start loading my brush with burnt sienna. So burnt sienna is on my dirty brush, and this is going to be the rest of the fur. We will be adding a lot of other information on top of the fur to give it a much more realistic look to it, but this is just going to be my base coat. Right up here is going to be where the bottom lip is going to go, and I'm doing this in kind of a curved motion. So if you can still see some of your green underneath here right now, it's okay. Don't worry about that. Again, we will be providing much more information on top of this, which will help to get rid of that. As I'm coming towards, I'm going to save the ears for, no, actually I'll do my ears before I finish the face. So again, just my burnt sienna right now. Bringing it over here, overlapping it into that dark a little bit, that dark paint a little bit. Again, we're going to be doing the horns in a minute as well, but I'm going to just start to overlap that in front of the horn. And I don't have much paint on my brush, and I'm kind of using the side of my brush or just the little tips of it. I like using these bristle brushes, especially when I'm doing fur, because it allows me to get these individual type of strands, which to me makes it look a little bit more natural and has more movement to it. And I can kind of play with the layering of the fur and the colors and stuff. So that's why I love using these brushes for this. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the face. So I'm just kind of bringing this down on these outside edges of the face, and again overlapping it into that darker area that I had. So I'm opting to do a dark tone for my base, which I often do on animal fur, because it helps me build my way towards those lighter pieces on the outside of the fur. And especially on something like this where the hair is so different in colors, the underneath hair versus the shorter hair of the cow versus the longer hair of the cow. The longer hair is usually very blonde type of looking to me with the images that I've seen of these kind of cows, and then the other hair seems to be more of like a rusty type of a color. So I'm opting to do my dark tones underneath first, and then I will come back and put those light blonde pieces on top of it. I feel like this is going to go over the eye, in through here, and then once you've got this done, that's looking good to me. Once you've got this done, oh, actually, I'm going to put tiny bit more black and brown on my brush right above this nose. I feel like I want just a little bit more darkness. And again, we'll be doing highlights and shadows on the fur to make sure that it is as fully executed as we feel we want it to be, but I just felt I wanted to do that now, so I did. And then you can put this brush away. We're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So you can put this away, get your medium brush out, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our horns. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are black, brown, and white. And if I need to, I can go into some of that gray, but I want them to look like they've got kind of some grit and texture to them. So I'll probably just add that with the black, brown, and white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have shadows at the bottom side of them and highlights at the top. So I'm going to start with a little bit of black paint on my brush, and I'm coming in on this bottom side with black paint. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of rub it up. Now I'm going to just wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up some brown paint and kind of dry brush it on here so it takes on, or you can see some of that gray underneath it. I'm just going to work around my hair from my ear. When I get to that part of the final fur on my ear, I'll overlap it over the horn. Now I'm going to pick up brown and white on my brush at the same time, and I'm going to do this bright highlight up at the top in through here. So brown and white, bringing this all the way in through here. This is the time where I get to get rid of any of my chalk marks. If there's little lumps and bumps in here, just embrace them. The horns can have all kind of nicks and, you know, various spots that have texture to them. Again, just a little bit of brown and white, overlapping this, rubbing it, making it blend, but not, you know, so blended that it looks super smooth. And just continuing to pick up my brown and my white. And you may find once you've got this on here that you want to do another layer on it just to give it a little bit more contour to it. So if you want it to look a little bit wider, you can bring the light area down farther. That's going to make it look like it's got more width to it. So something like that looks good to me on this side. And then I'm going to go do the same exercise or process on the other side. So I'm going to just wash and dry my brush. I'm going to start with some black paint and do this bottom side of the horn. So something like this, just kind of ride down that bottom side. I feel it would be more shadowed down here than up there, so I'm going to kind of, I'll put a shadow underneath here, but maybe more so with brown as opposed to the black, and then just kind of rub this in so I have a soft transition into the gray, or the brown, which is what I'm going to pick up now. Picking up a little bit of brown, get that to blend in a little bit. And again, just little bits of brown in through here, and then I'm going to pick up brown and white on my brush. So brown and white is where I'm going to get this bright highlight from. I missed my shadow underneath there, so I will attack that in a second here. Just get this on. And when I'm doing something like this, I try, again, not to be so perfect or smooth. I want it to look like, you know, maybe one area like this top area is catching a little bit more light. So maybe I put more white up there as opposed to the bottom part. If I want there to be some, you know, texture and make the horn itself not look so polished or smooth, that's where I just kind of use my brush in a more rubbing or scrubbing type of technique, you know, all the while saying I want the top part to be lighter and the bottom part to be darker, but I can use the manipulation of my brush in order to give it a little bit of texture. I just picked up a little bit more brown just to get a tiny bit of a shadow underneath that part in through there. And then I would let it dry, and if there's any additional little areas that I, you know, feel could use a little bit more brightness or darkness, I would certainly do that. And then we're going to be using, the same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our facial features. So it's going to be this big nose area, the little lip, and the eye. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm using are black, burnt sienna, white, and brown. Oh, and the skin color too. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a base coat for my eye with black. We'll let that sit. We'll come back and do some details on it. I'm going to be putting a little lip in through here, a couple of nostrils, and we'll do some details around this big muzzle area. And it'll be, you know, a few quick brush strokes and we'll be done. So I'm going to start with my eye. I'm going to be using a little bit of black paint on my brush to put my eye in place. So I want this to look like, you know, the head is really tipped back. So I'm putting the eye pretty far down the nose. So maybe about 2/3 of the way down the nose and to the right. I'm going to create this kind of like oval type of a shape in through here. I'm opting to do just one eye. I'm going to have the other eye covered with hair or fur, hair fur. But you could certainly do both eyes. I just thought that this would be super cute because these animals, I see them with one eye all the time. So I'm going to use a tiny bit of this black with water on my brush in order to give myself a little bit darker area where the bottom lip kind of goes under that nose area. So this is black plus a little bit of water on my brush. I'm giving myself just a soft kind of transition into the darkness of that mouth. So just a little, just rubbing it out, maybe a little bit along the edge of the face as well, something like this. Just a teeny tiny bit so I can have that shadow in there when I go to build the lighter areas of that lip. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to use that same black with water on my brush to put my nostril in place. So these nostrils kind of come out the top of the area in through here. So I'm going to just kind of bring this in like this and just kind of curve it here like this, and then do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to rub it in a second before it dries. Just wanted to get that on there. And then I just kind of rub it out so it is a soft blend into the neighboring skin. So it's the darkest where it goes into the face, which is right in this corner here. And then it just kind of blends out into the skin of the face. So I'll put more detail on that in a minute, but that's how I'm going to just start that in through there. And if yours is too big or too small, you can certainly adjust it accordingly. I'm just kind of pushing this little black area up and through there. And then again, I will get it to blend more in a minute, just starting it that way. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tiny bit of my skin color as a bottom lip in through here. So just a tiny bit. I wiped my brush off. I picked up some of that skin color, and I'm going to put just a little tiny line in through here. And then just, I want it to blend out into the fur, because I feel that these lips are just kind of soft looking. So I'm just going to blend it out into the fur. I'm going to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna to help it blend a little bit in through here. So that was originally the skin tone, and then a little bit of burnt sienna just to kind of get it to blend out, because I don't want it to be too straight of a line. So that looks pretty good. Just kind of getting that to blend a little bit more. There we go. And then just pull that down. There we go. Now I'm going to go over to the eye and finish the eye while those nostrils are kind of settling for a minute. The eye, I want it to be looking up at my little bird. So what I'm going to first do is add a tiny bit of burnt sienna as the colored part of my eye. So I've got burnt sienna on my brush. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give this curved line in through here. So it starts kind of at the top center of the section and then just kind of comes down towards the kind of bottom section in through here. You could even pull it up a little bit. This is going to get way darker when it dries. I'm just kind of steering the eye in the direction of the animal, of the little bird. So whatever direction that pupil is in is going to tell where the where he's looking. Then I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of brown and white. So I want the white of the eye to have a little bit of brown in it, so it's not so white. So I picked up a tiny bit of white and brown, and I'm going to give myself a little crescent of the white part of the eye in through here. So something like this. You can even bring this down maybe a little bit in through there. And you can make it as bright as you want. I just didn't want it to overtake my the appearance here. Just put a tiny bit more white on my brush, get it a little bit brighter. And then once I've got that on there, I can, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of the gray color that I used for, I didn't say I was going to use gray, but I'm picking up gray that I used for the horns and put a little shine at the top of the eye. So this is just a little bit of that gray color. I cross it over the colored part of the eye and over the pupil a little bit like that. And then I can pick up a tiny bit of white paint. I just washed and dried my brush, picked up a tiny bit of white paint, and I'm going to do some little sparkle dots looking up towards there. And then if you felt that you needed to enhance any of the fur around the eye, I just picked up a little bit of black and brown paint just to make sure that I have enough kind of darkness around the eye. So this is there might be a little bit of gray on there too, unintended, but black and brown is where I'm kind of going with giving myself some little bit of dark fur around here, make sure that I've got enough drama underneath and around that eye. And then I'm going to go back to the nose because I'm thinking that eye looks pretty darn cute. So I'm going to go back to the nose. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to put a highlight at the top of the nose. Or actually, let me finish those nostrils first. I'm going to pick up a teeny bit of brown paint on my brush. I'm going to put another layer with brown, get it to blend out into the pink like that. This is just brown on my brush to give myself a nice kind of dark color in through there, and then just blend it out. Now I'm wiping my brush off, picking up a tiny bit of black to give myself a little dark area in this nostril. So that's just a tiny bit of black, little dark area in the upper corner of that nostril. Now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to pick up white and my skin tone. So about equal parts of white and my skin tone. I'm going to put a big highlight at the top of this nose, and it's going to kind of come into that center a little bit. So this is white and my skin tone. This is going to make that nose pop right out at us. And then I just kind of rub it out like this. I'm going to bring it up onto the top of these nostrils like this. And of course, you might, if you've never done this before, you might find that you want to do multiple layers on this, that maybe that first coat, it didn't work out exactly as you had planned. But once I've got that highlight on there, I'm going to pick up a little bit more of my skin tone just to get it to blend up and into that fur. Touch of brown is now going on my brush just to make sure this edge up here is soft transition into the face like that. That works out pretty well. I've got that light spot at the top, and then I'm going to do the same thing over on the edges. So I'm going to pick up brown and my skin tone just to get these to blend out a little bit more, maybe a little bit more brown. So again, I'm just kind of softening these edges and getting them to go into the neighboring fur. So just brown. I'm using more brown on my brush right now than anything. I have a little bit of that skin tone on there, but the brown is helping to get me to get it to blend into the fur that's next to it, or just give it a soft edge around the edge of it. So something like that. And then I'm going to take brown and my skin tone and kind of speckle this bottom portion of the nose. So this is brown and my skin tone. This is giving little textural element to the it's not a snout. I almost just called it a snout. That's pig speaking. To the muzzle area. I'm not quite sure what the proper terminology is. I think just nose, nose, muzzle area. But this is giving me some nice little texture in through here. And then you can certainly fiddle with it as much as you want. Maybe a little bit more of my skin tone just to pop that lip out a little bit more. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got your features on your cow, I just picked up white in my skin tone to get these to transition. Once you've got this done, you can put this medium brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our beautiful bird. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors I'm using are my skin tone, black, white, yellow, blue, and I think that's it. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making just these beautiful color patterns throughout the bird. I'm going to be using my skin tone on this wing, and I'm going to use a variation of it on that wing, and then we're going to make some stripes. We'll be using yellow and blue and white on the body, and then we'll be doing our little eye, our beak, and our feet. So I'm going to build it in a way where we've got kind of base colors, and then we're going to build off of those. So I'm going to start with my skin tone, and I'm going to paint this outside wing with that skin tone. So these birds come in such a huge variety of different color variations. So whatever is speaking to you, if you want yours to just be a little delicate pink hummingbird or a purple hummingbird or a green one, whatever you'd like to do, you can certainly look up different variations of hummingbirds, and some have longer beaks, you know, depending on where they're at in the world. So feel free to customize yours. So just bringing that out there. I'm going to use that custom skin color plus a little bit of yellow and white. So I took my skin color and I added a touch of yellow and a touch of white to it. This is going to give me a little bit different variation, more of like an orangey type of tone for the other wing, which we're seeing the other side of the wing, which on this specific variety I was looking at, the outside of the wing was a little bit different of a color than the inside of the wing. So I wanted to kind of capture that. So that's how I'm doing it. I'm picking up that custom color, and they'll be tied together by a little blue accent and some outlines of sorts. So this is just going to be kind of my base color for this wing over on this side, and this is where I'm going to start to get rid of my my guidelines. So as I go through this process, if I have some chalk or you know, areas that I can get rid of, I do that now. So I think I'm going to use this orangey tone for the beak as well. So I'm just going to pull a little bit of this down the beak, give me a nice color variety in through there so we can see it. I guess I'm going to use it for the feet too. I might as well, since it's a nice natural neutral color, so that'll give me a good base coat for there. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to do the body now. So the feathers are, I'm going to have them very yellowy in through here and on the top of the head, and very blue like on the throat and the back tail, and then it'll be fades kind of into green, because blue and yellow, when you mix them together, makes green. So I'm going to start with yellow and white on my brush. So I have yellow and white, and I'm going to be dotting this in the areas that I want my yellow to be very vibrant. So just kind of dotting in yellow and white. I'm bringing it kind of over these feet, somewhere in through here, maybe just a little bit down towards this back side. Again, it's going to blend into my blue by making green in a minute, but just kind of starting this out, tapping it right over in through here. I'm going to put a bunch on the top of the head. We'll put the eye on in a minute, but this is just going to get us started. So there's my yellow, my firm yellow kind of areas, maybe a little bit in through here, maybe a little bit back in through here. Now I'm going to pick up, without washing my brush, a tiny touch of cobalt blue. So right now I have lots of yellow, a little bit of white, and cobalt blue on my brush. This is going to make green as I dot it into my canvas. So because I've got those colors on my brush at the same time, I'm creating a prismatic type of gradient from yellow to blue by using those colors on my brush at the same time. I'm going to do that over in through here. So wherever I have my big yellow areas, the next color is going to be yellow and blue and white on my brush, which is going to, on my canvas, make a green color. So I've got that in through there. I've just reloaded with yellow, blue, and white. I'm going to have it in through here, maybe a little bit around where that eye is going to go, a little bit on this top. You could certainly pre-mix yourself a green color, but for me, I love mixing my colors on my canvas when I have the opportunity to do so. So this is one of those opportunities, so I am seizing the moment. So that's looking pretty good. I've got some good green going on, maybe a little bit more down in through here. Now I'm just going to start picking up cobalt blue on my dirty brush. I'm going to put some in through here. So because I didn't wash my brush, I probably still have a little bit of white on there. I might even have a little bit of yellow still on there. So I'm just using it to my advantage and getting these colors to really talk to one another. I'm going to dot it in through here, with whatever those remnants on my brush were. So again, this is creating this beautiful tonal shift from yellow to blue, or from yellow to green to blue. And I've got little peekaboo spots of the white. So we've got little highlights. It's looking spectacular. Just a little bit more blue on my brush. Get a little bit darker down in through here. And then I'm going to start adding, or actually I'm going to put a little bit of blue in the wings before I start adding all of my dark details. I think I'm going to put just a little bit more green transition in through here. So I just picked up a little bit of yellow on my dirty brush. So wherever you want more green, just you want to saturate the blue and the yellow together in that particular area. And again, of course, you could add a little bit more. You could mix it on your palette if you need to. So I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to put a tiny bit of blue and white on my brush at the same time. I want to get some blue kind of stripes in these wings. So this is just blue and white. I'm going down on the bottom side of each one of my little scallops, and then just bringing it towards the body of the bird. So blue and white on my brush, about equal parts. I'm going to take it again, the bottom side of each little scallop, and just give it a curve towards, like, we'll call it the armpit area, the armpit wing area. So blue and white, just the bottom of this, and you can see how this is tying it right now to the other wing itself. It's giving them a harmonious color from one to the other. So it's making them look like they belong together. There we go. And then I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to put a tiny bit of black paint on my brush. And I'm going to use black with a touch of water on my brush, so that way I can ensure I have teeny tiny skinny marks. I'm going to do my my eye in through here, just a little circular type of shape like that. I'm going to put little shadow feathers, a lot on the bottom side of my bird. So this is just a little tiny bit of black paint, allowing for me to put some nice little details, maybe a bunch on the bottom of the bird in through here. So I'm just kind of tapping it along the bottom side of the bird. So it's not a firm line, but it looks like it's creating little bits of shadows underneath these, underneath the body. One, to give the bird a little bit of form, but also to speak to the whatever the light source is in the atmosphere, so we can have a little bit of depth and dimension in it. These are my little feet I'm coming up to, so I'm going to just kind of put these little curved lines in there. That's going to give the illusion that there's some little feet in there. These are a little bit longer feathers coming down this tail behind those feet, so maybe a little bit up in through here above the feet too, like there's little feathers in through there. So this again is just black. I'm going to kind of streak it down the bottom side of this tail feather, so I can give you can even streak it up into a couple of those feathers, so that'll give it some, again, a little bit more dimension as those feathers kind of overlap one another. That's looking pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to that the wings, and here I'm definitely using some water on my brush so I can get very skinny lines. I'm going to start over on this left hand side and just kind of outline these scallops, and then I'm going to pull that black into between those feathers just a itty bitty bit. I don't want to do too much, but I do want to accentuate kind of the detail of this. So by doing these little extra steps is going to make it look a little bit more realistic, because you're able to see the detail between the feathers. It's making it look like there's a little bit more substance to it. and it's giving it good contrast against that background. So I'm just got that black on my brush, kind of outlining the edges, very thin, kind of subtle type of an outline. You can even go up or between the wings, something like this. And again, I'm just kind of proceeding with caution because I don't want this black to overtake the information on here. I just really am looking for it to be nice and subtle, and I keep adding a bit of moisture to my brush so I can get these nice skinny kind of lines in through here. I definitely want a little bit of darkness back between the wings in through here. So this again is just a little bit of black, kind of pulling it into these little feather, the little start of the wing in through there. I feel like I want like a little bit of yellow up this wing. I just picked up a little bit of yellow. I'm going to tap this in, maybe a little yellow and white. A little yellow and white. Just tap in a little bit of this yellow going up this wing in through here. Yeah, that's looking pretty. I felt like just needed to be connected to that body a little bit more. And then let's see, what am I going to do next? I think I need a little bit more black on this wing in through here. So I just reloaded with a touch of black. I feel like it's almost too, I can't tell the difference between the two of the wings. So this is going to, again, just give me a little bit more information. There we go. I'm going to finish the beak now, or the eye. I'm washing and drying my brush. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of white paint. I'm going to give myself a little light feathers around that eye, so just tapping in a little bit of white, and then I'm going to put a little sparkle at the top of that eye just to give it, you know, the sunshine hitting it. I'm also going to put a tiny bit of white on the beak. So just an itty bit of white paint just to accentuate the brightness of that. And if you felt you needed white anywhere else, like the top of the head, feel free to do so. And I think that's all I'm going to do on it. If you have any little adjustments that you want to make, feel free to do so. We're going to be using our large bristle brush for the next step, so you can just get ready. All right, so what I'm going to be doing for the next step is I'm going to finish the fur. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush for painting, but I'm going to use my medium brush to mix a couple of extra colors. I'm going to be doing a second layer in all the fur, so I want to add a lot of dimension to it, so I'm going to elevate the colors for my dark fur with a lighter version, and then I've got some really light pieces that I'll be putting on the top of the head and the top of the ears, so I'm going to create like a light tan blonde color for that. So I have pre-mixed my colors on my palette so you can see where I'm headed. This is, I'm going to call this one light brown. So here's my burnt umber, this is my light brown. How I got to this is a lot of brown and burnt sienna and a touch of yellow and a touch of white. So what I'm in essence doing is I'm creating a color that's between my brown and my burnt sienna that looks kind of like a milk chocolate type of a color, and that's where I'm going to be headed for my light brown color. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of that light brown and I'm going to add a bit of white and yellow to it. And this is going to create a light golden tan that I'll use as like the blonde pieces of hair, fur that is at the top of the head and the top of the ears. So this is the color I'm going for in through here. And yours don't have to be exactly as mine, just something that will work for you is fine by me. And I'm going to put my medium brush away. I'm going to take out my large brush. I'm going to start in my dark areas and work my way to the light. So the dark areas are going to be all around the face, the bottom parts of the ears, maybe this little area in through here, and then we're going to have some really blonde, long pieces at the top. So the colors I'm going to be using for this step are black, brown, light brown, burnt sienna, tan, and white. And if I use any other colors, I'll let you know. I'm going to start with a tiny bit of black and brown on my brush at the same time. I just want to accentuate any areas that I want it to be the darkest, and making sure that I can't see any of that green underneath. So this is my step where I'm getting rid of all green, the evidence of any green paint that might be still showing through, making sure I've got all the areas that I want to be nice and dark, that I've got them as dark as I want them to be. So really dark in through here. This is black and brown on my brush right now, and just kind of bringing it in through here. We already did this step or these pieces once, but this final coat is going to make sure, again, you've got everything covered and that you have addressed and attended to all areas that you need to. Again, just a little bit of black and brown on my brush. Feel like I want maybe a little bit more kind of coming up into this ear, just a itty bitty bit in through there. Just blend this out a little bit more in through here as well. So I'm just kind of rubbing that in, making sure I've got no evidence of my green underneath there. I'm going to pull a tiny bit of this. Again, this is just brown and black, a little bit more up, maybe up in the bottom side of this ear. Of course, you can, I think I want to pull a couple of these ear pieces down a little bit further too. So you can pull them down as far as you want, maybe a couple more. The longer the better on these ears. They're so freaking cute. Something like that works. Now I'm going to start picking up my light brown. So this is that custom color that we just created on my dirty brush. This is going to be where I create my highlights for this darker fur that's underneath. I'm just kind of moving it in the shape of the face or the contour of the face. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, just an itty bitty bit is gonna do all I needed to. I'm going to pull just a little bit of this around this face in through here. If you're going about this and you have a lot of black still on your brush, you might want to wash and dry your brush. I'm using it, allowing it to kind of work its way into my fur and stuff, but if you don't like that feeling or that appearance of whatever remnants of black you have on your brush, then you can certainly just wash and dry it and just start with a clean brush. I'm picking up more of that custom tan, light brown that we created, making sure I've got enough coming out of this mouth and through here, or this chinny chin chin. And as I'm doing this, if I feel that I want to incorporate more of my the burnt sienna, I certainly will. Like, I feel I might, once I get this this area in through here, I might add a little bit of burnt sienna, but I might also just let it dry and see if it's doing everything that I want it to before I make that determination. But you can see, because I built my way towards this light stuff, I've got this fabulous dimension that's occurring on that chin right now. I'm going to do that a little bit more on these cheeks, so it comes around the face in through here, and then I'm just going to kind of pull it down. Now, because I'm not overloading my brush with a ton of paint, it's again allowing me to control the direction. It's allowing me to continue to see the other paint underneath it. I think I want a little bit of this color around this eye too, so the eye pops out a little bit more, and then just pull this down. So you can use this lighter tone to get areas of the face to have more shape to it, maybe a little bit over this eye. So I'm still in my dark fur right now. My light fur is going to occur when I go to add those highlighted pieces around the top of the head. So while I'm working in my dark fur, I'm only right now using the darker tones, which are that light brown, burnt sienna, brown, and black, and any combination thereof. But right now I'm using a lot of my light brown just to get all of these areas to talk to one another. I know a lot of this is going to be covered by that fun fur that we're going to be putting on in a little bit, but I'm using this to now transition over the edge of the horns, making sure that I've got a good representation of fur that's going to be underneath the blonde stuff that we're going to put in a minute. So again, just a little bit of the light brown is helping me make this look really nice and natural. I'm going to do the same thing on the ears. So this is, again, is where I'm going to start to pull it out past the footprint of our original outline. So it allows it to start covering part of that horn. And you can use the tip of your brush, the corner of your brush. You could use a smaller brush, wherever your comfort zone is. This fur can be, like these longer pieces can be kind of wavy too. If you want to add some cute little wavy pieces down at the bottom, feel free to do so. We're going to add, again, that lighter stuff on the top in a minute, but just building my way. I just keep picking up that light brown. I'm going to cover this edge of the ear in through there, and then just kind of using, again, a directional brush stroke to tell how that fur is kind of coming out of that object. I know that, you know, this is the head's back, the kind of cartilage of the ear is up at the top, and this long fur just kind of drapes over. Maybe we've got a couple of little straggler pieces at the end, so maybe I just kind of wiggle my brush a little bit at the end, and not over painting, not using a ton of paint on my brush, just letting it kind of blend into that the base or the foundation that we had set in place. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to start picking up, I want to get this chin a little bit lighter, so I'm going to pick up, what am I going to do here? I'm actually going to pick up my light brown and a touch of my skin tone. I didn't say I was going to use that, but I'm going to use it because I feel like I want to kind of transition this. So this is my light brown plus a touch of my skin tone. I had a feeling it would look nice and believable, so that's what I went for. Yeah, I'm going to go into the blonde in a minute, but this was underneath the chin, so I think I want a different tone to this than the hair I'm going to put on the top of the head. Yeah, that looks super cute. So this is tan or light brown plus my skin tone. Again, just to give myself a little volume on this chinny chin chin. You can pull out little couple pieces if you need to. Maybe just a touch on this cheek in through here. Get that to pop out a little bit more in through here too. And now once I've got, oh my God, he's so cute. Once I've got this, I'm going to start to add the, if I can stop doing this, he's so cute. I'm going to start to add the light stuff on the top of the head. I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to pick up that light golden tan color that we created, a little bit on the tip of my brush. I'm going to put some directional brush strokes in through here. So I'm going to start, I think I'm going to just start up at the top. Just give myself some little fluffy pieces kind of coming out the top of the head in through here. Again, I'm going past my footprint that we had put initially because I want these to just look like these cute little flyaway pieces. So I've got both of those colors on my brush right now, my my tan and my light brown. And I'm pulling out all of these soft pieces. I'm pushing my brush kind of hard and using the corner so I can get like these individual type of curly or flyaway pieces, and I just kind of keep reloading my brush. I'll work my way in a minute, but I feel like this is the smartest move to kind of start this process. Just a little bit on the tip of my brush and just pulling out. This looks like my hair in the morning. Sorry. No, my hair is way worse than this in the morning. So that's looking fun. I'm going to put some on here as well. like this. And again, just kind of, these are more fun. These are going to be more individual, kind of airy type of pieces. So again, just using the corner of my brush. Oh, I dropped some in through there. Just going to wipe that off. Put a little bit of this over in through here. And if your paint is not drying as fast as you want it and you're over blending, you may want to just kind of sit back and wait a minute for your first layer to dry, and then you can start working on these lighter pieces. But that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to start picking up more of that blonde color and giving myself my my longer pieces on top of here. So I'm going to just kind of pull this down in through here. I want it to look like it's kind of coming out of here and then maybe resting over that nose and maybe coming down in through here. And you can put as many pieces as you want. You can have as few as you want, whatever works for you. For me, I kind of want to see some of that fur underneath, but I need it to be covered enough, which will make sense that I didn't do the eye. So if you opted to leave the eye out like I did, you're going to want to make sure that you put enough hair over this little section that it's believable that there's no eye, that you didn't paint the eye, that this hair is just completely covering it. So that's one, kind of thing, just wanted to make sure that you attended to. This is the side of the head, so I can put kind of these bumps of the hair in through here. That's again going to tell the shape of the head. I can pull these longer pieces out in through there. Again, I'm just picking up my light or my tan color, that golden color right now, giving some little curves in through here. I'm going to put some white in a minute, but this is looking super cute to me. Putting a little bit more, I want some longer ones on this side too. So this is just my tan. Putting, oh, this is, sorry. Oh, this is why I paint, I guess. Because when I'm doing these kind of paintings, they make me happy. I think that's the whole thing. Every little piece, as I'm getting towards the finessing of these final little pieces on this little cute animal, are making me happy. I'm going to put a couple little ones over by this eye too. Maybe even we cross one over, something like that. And again, because I'm using this really firm bristle brush, it's allowing me to just get these individual appearance to some of these pieces. I'm going to have some extra fun hair kind of just flowing or flying away over there. I'm going to put some on the top of this ear over here, maybe a little bit more than I did the first go around. And every time I add another little layer of this lighter color, it is just adding to the dimensional element of it. I am going to add a bit of the of white in a minute just to give it a final little highlight. But right now I'm going to start kind of scrubbing a little bit harder so I can get a little bit softer tones in there. That's looking good. And maybe that one's a little bit lighter than this one. All right, I'm going to put just the remnants on my brush in through here, just getting that chin to pop out. I'm going to start, I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of burnt sienna right now. I feel like I want a little bit more rusty tones in this top area where the head is up higher. So I just put a little bit of burnt sienna on my dirty brush just to get a little bit different tonal value in through there. Pull a couple in through here. It's looking good. So now I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to pick up my tan and white on my brush to get my final little highlights. So this is tan plus white on my brush. I'm going to get just these little pops of sun-kissed pieces that will tell the final story of how bright it is outside, how this cute animal's head is just leaning back. If you feel that you want to accentuate any areas, such as this little area coming over the nose, just add a little bit of additional highlight to it with that white, maybe with a little bit more of your golden color. And again, if you're feeling like it's you know, blending too much, you could certainly use a smaller brush as well. You could use the medium or the small round brushes in order to get even more individual pieces. That's going to be a comfort place on your part. You might be, you know, if you're struggling with using a larger brush, then you could certainly switch to a smaller one. Again, wherever you feel is comfortable to you. We all have different painting styles and our hands all move differently from one another. So what works for me may not work for you. I just put a little bit more of that tan color on so I can see the edge of this ear. So, you know, I give you the guidance as to what works for me. And then as you're going through your process, if you need to change it up in order to get the same effects, then by all means, just do so. That's, you know, we all paint differently. I paint from the side, you probably paint straight on. So maybe something is going to work differently for you. So just feel free to, you know, modify as you go in order to get that visual effect that you're looking for. And then once I've got this done, I'm going to be putting more hair on because I can't stop. But once you got this on, we're going to be using our small brush. Oh my God, I can't stop. We're going to use our small brush for the next step. So you can put this large brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I'm going to use my small detail brush, my #1 round. I am going to be signing mine in the bottom right-hand corner with black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date or a symbol. Whatever you want for your identifying mark to be is up to you because it's your painting and you get to sign it however you would like. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself an adorable double animal portrait, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.